So, Galactus vs Unicron then. I don't want to waste time prefacing this review with anything other than that I have chosen to go into this with as open a mind as possible. While the waiting period was agonizing, there were some small things that made it better than some others this year. I had an absolute blast on the prediction video, I had an excuse to go past my anxiety and talk to a friend who is also a Transformers fan a lot more, and I had a great time putting effort into some artwork again. End of the day, this is my second favorite matchup of all time, just behind Godzilla vs Gamera and just above Destoroyah vs Iris. I rank this matchup very highly, regardless of how much I've become disinterested in it as a potential death battle. So coming here today, the only thing, and I do mean the only real thing that I had any expectations of, was for there to be a great Unicron transformation sequence, because that's what everyone who knows anything about Unicron thinks of first. Not the multiversal singularity, not his feats of power, honestly, not even his voice, though the iconic performance of Wells definitely is up there. But that one moment in the film when he transforms and everything feels so hopeless. Well, okay, I mean, there is another very iconic scene, which I don't really see people talking about much. I'm just going to show you to you. Hopefully Hasbro doesn't copyright blast me.
Galactus, I summon you here for a purpose.
Yes, my master. What is it you require?
I am in need of sustenance to undo my dehydration.
I know what you need, Unicron. I present to you G Fuel, the sponsor of today's video.
G Fuel, explain this that you have brought to me.
G Fuel is a plant-based energy formula, devoid of calories, sugar, and carbohydrates. It will replenish you with its abundance of antioxidants and energize you with caffeine.
Caffeine?
Yes, master, which means it is to be drunk responsibly and not by those under 18. Are you under 18, Unicron?
You are imbecilic.
Let me hand you this drink. You can either acquire it in tubs or in cans. Among the other 50 flavors, I will give you my favorite, Blue Ice.
This is delicious. I will require more from Cybertron.
No, Unicron! Cybertron doesn't have any G Fuel.
I would have spared your insignificant speck of a planet, but for this slight against me, it shall be annihilated!
Decepticons, scramble! We require the aid of G Fuel! Hurry and head to the link in the description to visit G Fuel's online store! Do not be a fool, Autobot! You will not be able to acquire G Fuel as you are!
That's where you're wrong, Galvatron! I used the link in the description, but also code BLOODRIGHT for 20% off my order!
What?
Now, energize our darkest hour!
No, impossible! You cannot destroy.
This is the end of the road, Galvatron. With G Fuel, I can perform feats of epic gaming, such as defeating Galactus in Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
Yes, Rodimus, you can. I concede. I must acquire G Fuel for myself.
Kill all! Drink G Fuel!
Hey, I'm alive again.
How'd that happen?
But first, let's talk about the analysis. So we're doing this thing of showing a clip of the fight with the fight graphic coming in before the episode. I'm okay with this, yeah, it makes for a kind of neat preview of what we'll get. I also like the idea of doing trailers instead of sneak peeks of the episode in the future during cast. It's a lot more interesting to me. We got epithets again, that's great. Please don't tell me that only happened because the script is obviously from an earlier season, which I guess gives away my thoughts already. But yes, this episode's script very much feels like it's from an older season of Death Battle, probably around season 7 or 8. Galactus' analysis is perfectly okay! It had one particularly memorable thing. I kinda like Boomstick's comment about what Gallon's question on his mind was. I didn't laugh in the reaction, but when I first watched the preview, it did get a chuckle out of me. It was pretty funny. Actually, I did kind of find Galactus' analysis slightly funnier than some of the others. It had a few jokes that made me smile. The cutaway was obvious in its joke, but like it wasn't distracting. No, I don't know. They did let me down in one regard, but I wouldn't. I'll talk about that when we get to Unicron. Unicron's analysis took a look at his character in a much more interesting way than Galactus. Ironic, seeing as Unicron isn't often as much a character as he is entropy given a face. Unicron is naturally a very interesting concept though, so it was pretty easy to make his analysis interesting. Though they say his antibody system is there to stop someone from pulling a Drax on him, but that's pretty silly considering the scene they reference is Drax being a dumbass and failing to succeed at anything on his own. The Orson Welles bit was kinda neat, but at least to a very cutaway gag. I know what it references, it's not funny though. The ending is pretty great. Boomstick did not need to go that hard in the final line. But the thing is, both analyses are very surface level. Unlike Season 10's analyses, which mostly balance story and verses really well, they don't really tackle the versus stuff all that interestingly. Like, Galactus and Unicron's feats felt pretty fucking barren to me. This is, if any episode was to do it, the one that needed a breakdown of cosmology. Not because I really care that much necessarily about accurate versus stats, but because half the entire point of these characters is the sheer scope at which they operate. People need to stop thinking about cosmology and scale as a pure versus debater thing. It exists for many reasons as a cornerstone of writing that can be utilized for many purposes if a writer chooses. In the case of Galactus and Unicron, the size of their cosmologies and what they represent in them, where they sit and the sheer scale of the two, is fundamentally necessary to really get across what they are. For Galactus, not bringing up the cosmology he exists in kinda glosses over the importance of the place he sits. He is beyond all material things, dimensionality, and finite existence, and that is exactly why he is so fundamental for finality. Because he sits above it, he is able to facilitate the cessation of multiversal cycles. He is able to stop the multiverse from having to reach an inevitable end and repeat. Galactus being infinite is what gives life value in Marvel, because it allows him to ensure that reality doesn't have to end up being worth nothing. He wouldn't be able to fulfill his purpose, and if he couldn't do that, then the multiverse would be arguably meaningless, as all things would have to end. Conversely, the sheer scale of Unicron and his cosmology, the depth of that and what he represents, is essential to how terrifying he is. He's akin to a Lovecraftian deity. It's not what he is as a relatable villain force of nature that's threatening, but that he is a fundamental fact. Unicron is a fact, so fundamentally true that the totality of your existence, all dimensions you could perceive, may as well not exist from his point of view. To him, you simply are not real. He doesn't acknowledge you. That's in a way what he is. A form of evil and entropy so cataclysmic that it barely registers the damage it does to an individual. Kinda like a megacorporation like Hasbro, I mean what? In ignoring the deeper cosmology, you lose that sense of sheer magnitude that he carries. It wouldn't have changed the results, and yes, it would have led to even bigger bang power scaling that is not needed in a season where Galactus being above an infinite multiverse still puts him below like 4 characters in the season by Death Battle's own logic, maybe more. But there's more to cosmology than what it means to the power scaling of a show character or episode of Death Battle. There's what it can mean to a character. Cosmology doesn't mean that much character-wise to Hank Pym, Phoenix, Raven, but it does play an essential role in the characters and plot points of Galactus and Unicron. So seeing it absent here is disappointing to me. It's very surface level. Not that it matters to a lot of you only see cosmology through a versus lens. The fact that it is so necessary and relevant to these characters, what they thematically represent, their roles in their stories and franchises, that doesn't matter, because people will either say they wanted it for the versus stuff only, or they didn't want it because it only serves a versus purpose of making a bigger stat. Because while not everyone is completely devoid of media literacy in this community, some people sure do choose to ignore it. It's pretty fucking sad, honestly. I love cosmology and what it can add to a story and give you food for thought, but that's just not how people think anymore. Not in this community. Now it's just a weapon for power scaling, and I wish anything I said would fall on anything more than deaf ears. It's not all bad though. I mean, I can pretty easily say the editing was as good as usual. It doesn't honestly feel quite as polished as some of the earlier episodes this season, which I imagine is either a result of certain things being edited from back when the episode was first being made around probably season 7 or earlier based on how the script is written, or a result of fatigue from the rest of the season and editing non-stop between like 2 people. Either way, I understand. It's a bit sad, but it is what it is. At least it's still overall good, nothing was egregiously out of place. Then there's the fight. Oh boy. So the start of this fight is strangely fast, with no build-up to anything. It's really strange. Galactus just shows up, and then Unicron just shows up. He is basically immediately here and wrapping his horns around the planet. Galactus says a dumb line that is completely in character, and then Unicron boasts back? That's not really something Unicron does, but alright. Then Galactus paps him and Unicron goes flying like a massless balloon, which is one of the funniest things in this entire season.
What's your tone?
Then Unicron transforms, and it's really quick and has no weight or impact. It happens basically instantly. Huh. We don't get any references to the iconic transformation sequence except maybe his head coming out, and we have a model that looks exactly like the HasLab figure? That's strange. Oh, and then Unicron very suddenly hits Galactus with Earth and they have a very kind of normal speed fight with a minimal feeling of weight and impact. And Unicron continues saying weird things. This is all very strange. And then Unicron grows bigger and throws a star and it's really fast, and Galactus' response is also super fast paced, and then suddenly it gets slower. This is a really weird animation. They kind of just do some lasers and there's a sword for some reason, and Galactus gets cut in half and then just comes back and tears Unicron in half, and there's no impact to it. And then Unicron just flies off and says the fucking corniest MCU ass line. I don't remember if I've ever physically cringed at a death battle, but if not, then this is the first. I actively recoiled at the no transforming. It's ugh. Not only is it really out of character for any Unicron, except maybe the whiny Prime one to reply in, but forcing the name of the franchise, and the fact that Unicron is objectively not transforming because he just comes back as the same exact model as before but larger. The fact that he name-dropped the species spawned from the one thing he acknowledges as real and hates more than anything. Galactus might as well have replied with,
"You may be transforming, but I am a marvel."
And then Unicron starts rhyming? What? Okay, let's talk about Unicron for a second. Unicron as a character doesn't really boast. He doesn't really play along with shit. When Unicron talks himself up, it is exclusively for the purposes of bringing you to despair. Case in point, Armada. When he talks himself up, well, you know what? No, he doesn't even talk himself up. Unicron's boasting is just stating the objective facts about himself. He's not I'm the best and all that. There's nothing subjective about Unicron when he talks about how good he is. It's all objective truth. He just says what he is to break Prime's spirit. Otherwise, Unicron doesn't care what you think. So him boasting about himself when Galactus boasts, it's hilariously small-balled of him. Him responding to Galactus' threat in a serious way is really unusual too, and him replying to the question is also weird. It makes Unicron seem way more invested in the fight than befits a nihilistic entropy being such as him. For a season so good at capturing characters, it feels weird how they completely missed the ball on what Unicron is for this fight. Unicron is nihilistic entropy, the idea of finality, that nothing matters, because in the end, everything will end. It's an undeniable fact. Everything you ever do that's negative, cruel, evil, and harsh is just a pathway for that inevitable conclusion to arrive sooner than otherwise. There is no way he would act this invested and into the fight against someone he's literally never met before. While Galactus is generally in character as far as my memory of the comics goes, because he just loves saying something about anything going on in the most self-righteous pontification you've ever heard, it really just isn't something that works in Unicron does it. If anything, Unicron is written more like Megatron in this fight, down to the rhyming. Which, yeah, fits Galactus kind of, but not Unicron at all. I know what they're referencing, but it doesn't work. If anything, it's really funny and kind of silly how they're just randomly singing somehow. It's what? But if you weren't bothered by the random rhyming and limericks, I'd understand, because it's almost impossible for anybody to fucking hear what they're saying when the audio balancing is so bad. Not the audio design, mind you. Sound effects are all solid, but the balancing is off. Anyway, there's then another strangely quick fight, some galaxy chucking funny reference, and then it kind of just ends. Galactus does the nullifier thing and then just doesn't shoot it for some reason. He just lets Unicron possess it and fire it on him, which, hey, that would have been cool and led to a great fake out if it weren't for, I don't know, they mentioned Galactus can survive it in his analysis. They really emphasized how hard Unicron is to kill in his, which felt a bit on the nose. The fact that the music keeps going with no fade out at the end. The fact that Unicron, for some reason, with no semblance of acting like who he is, says, "Finally, I have won." As if Unicron wouldn't treat his victory, no matter how hard he fought, as an inevitability that was always destined to reach this point. And then before he's even finished his sentence, Galactus has opened a crack back to reality up. Oh, and then Galactus just shoots him and he dies. Wow, that was really strange. I know that some people will think I've been super negative because I haven't mentioned the one glaringly obvious positive of the episode, which, look, if you haven't noticed by now, then chances are you are blind, and I hope you're able to live your life as fully as everybody else. But when you actually look at what's happening, what this fight does, how it reflects the characters, it's really a lot of and then this happens stuff. And most of it is just punches and lasers, which if you know what these characters are actually capable of, you'd know is very disappointing. Unicron sure does make a sword at one point, and Galactus sure does nullifier, but most of it is just they grow big, punch and shoot laser, throw a thing, grow big, repeat. It's not that interesting. About the most interesting power Unicron uses in this fight is the black hole thing, which immediately goes away. And the most interesting Galactus uses is he farts with his hand. They really didn't use any of the potential laid out on the table, in my opinion. It doesn't feel any different to a standard punchy fight, except the characters happen to be very big. Well, and of course, let's bring it up, the episode is drop dead gorgeous. Easily one of the best looking episodes just in the entire show's history, hands down. Everything looks stunning. The character models less so, mostly Galactus looks a bit flat, and Unicron, while being nice and shiny, is also the HasLab design, which is just kind of a lame version of him. But the environment looks great, the sense of size is great, effects are phenomenal, all the cosmic stuff looks so fucking good. The galaxies are breathtaking, the stars look fantastic, the way the universe is rendered from so far a distance really brings to mind Gurren Lagann. The shading looks so fucking good in every scene. The shots of the two coming down to Earth, while a bit fast for me, do truly look amazing. There's so many shots of this episode that exist for the sake of being awesome wallpapers. I could print some of these out and put them on my wall as posters, and nobody would think it was some internet thing that's fully animated. I genuinely think people will believe it's either an official crossover, or maybe even some highly detailed fan render that took 5 centuries to pop out. And that's an absolute plus. It is in fact what makes this episode to me good. It's gorgeous visually. Unfortunately, I want more than a good looking fight. I also want a good fight. And in my opinion, everything other than looks is not up to snuff. The writing isn't great, well, for Unicron. Galactus being this kind of dickhead is pretty on point for him. The smug-ass grin when Unicron flies away is maybe a little too far. It feels a bit too familiar. It's like he's met Unicron before and is taunting an old friend or something. But hey, Galactus is a weirdo who thinks this hat is a good look, so I could imagine it. But Unicron is so far from anything I'd associate him with. I genuinely think his lines would be more fitting for G1 cartoon Megatron, with the poetic nature of IDW makes for the limericks. The animation feels like it has no flow from point A to point B. They keep firing blasts and throwing fists as if they didn't learn how pointless that was before, which, like, okay, sure, maybe Unicron isn't experienced enough, but you think Galactus might try some mass telekinesis beyond chucking some planets? Maybe some conceptual manipulation, telepathy, fucking anything. There's not even a cool character dynamic. We have Galactus, a guy who eats planets as an essential part of holding back entropy, and thus prolonging the existence of the multiverse, against a guy who eats planets as part of the goal of accomplishing entropy and ending everything. I know death battle fights are short, but an episode like Vader Obito can be about as long and have so much character depth to the interactions and how they talk to one another, why can't this? Literally as simple as Galactus struggles to comprehend Unicron's true nature, so Unicron uses this to try and break Galactus' spirits, bringing up all of the woes and what he's done, telling him exactly what Unicron is, and how every single world that Galactus has destroyed has simply made Unicron the end of all things, and the entropy Galactus exists to stop, stronger and more potent. But because Unicron doesn't really acknowledge the ideas of emotion and humanity, that part of Galactus surprises Unicron, being able to push past all that he said and bring out the nullifier, realizing that this is his moment to make up for all the lives he's taken, erasing the concept of entropy once and for all in a single act that saves the multiverse. But no, that's lame, just do pew pew pretty lasers with zero choreography for half of it. I feel like I'm coming off a bit harsh, but frankly it's because I genuinely do not think this fight has much going for it beyond how fucking stunning it is. And if you like it because it's so good looking, then if any episode I was going to say fair enough, it would be this one. But as someone who wanted to see Unicron, well, I did get to see him, but he wasn't acting like Unicron. His analysis barely scratched what Unicron is. He didn't at any point feel like Unicron. And that's what disappoints me. There's so much potential that was missed. And while we did get one of the nicest looking fights in the show's history, I'm way past the point of thinking that a fight looking good is all that matters. I prefer a fight that looks a bit shit but has fantastic writing, choreography and progression, like Snake vs. Sam, over a fight that looks amazing but has basically no writing, no choreography, and is one of those and then this happened because fights. To be fair, there is more than how the fight looks that gives it points. Wolf Williams' Galactus is really good. It sounds exactly how I picture Galactus, imposing, grand, and intimidating. Can't really say the same for Brent Mukai's Unicron though. Sounds kinda just like a normal guy, without either the booming force of wells, the sultry cruelty of Ackerson, or the hamby grandioseness of Noble. It's just kind of like a guy with a voice filter, but how much of that is a bad performance as opposed to bad lines, I can't say, because while the performance wasn't a Unicron performance to me, it was good on its own, and he did try to salvage some of the dialogue. The music as well, all-consuming, really solid. Not what I would have gone for or expected, but sounds really good. So good that they decided it was worth listening to more than the actual dialogue apparently. No, really though, it's a very good track, and the vocalization, like the actual vocals, phenomenal. Brilliant. Very near Automata. Also, I really like the nullifier destroying and recreating the aspect ratio alongside the multiverse, that's cool. But like, those are still just the bells and whistles. I don't expect everyone to agree with me, so to really stress it, this is just my opinion, and in my opinion, the skeleton upon which these bells and whistles and embellishments were placed is not very good. And then there's the conclusion, which is fine. There are some odd claims, but it's overall pretty good. Would have liked if they at least said the two had comparable speed to give Unicron a bit better a look, but the most notable thing is this. This map of the multiverse is a fan-made one, including DC, Kamen Rider, and Mortal Kombat, and also mislabeling some Earths that have different designations. Why is that? Well, it's not meant to be an accurate map of Marvel. This is Nova 20X's fanfiction map of the Macroverse from DeviantArt. I don't know this person or what they do beyond this, but I'm here to give them full credit for this and link this image in the description. To my knowledge, this has been addressed by Death Battle and they will be credited, but this was the most memorable thing to me because it was a bit funny. And that was Galactus vs Unicron, and I feel like I've got a very unpopular take. Not because people don't dislike the episode, but because people either love it to death or they hate it for scaling reasons, as the Transformers fandom started an 80% most obnoxious community in Versus speedrun without my knowledge. Okay, to be fair, the Transformers community's been a lot better now than they were last time, relatively being obnoxious, so hopefully next time Transformers comes on and loses, it'll be even less. But it's kind of hilarious to me how much this episode does the opposite of what the last one did for me. This episode almost makes me think maybe the hobby just isn't for me anymore. Because like, Death Battle, while really good, they tend to mostly get praised for how they visually look more than anything else. Galactus vs Unicron very much does not feel like it has Unicron in it. It has a facsimile of Unicron's design masquerading as him to fight Galactus. And Optimus vs Gundam, perhaps I treated you too harshly, because at least you did kind of feel like a Transformers episode. Oh, that was depressing. Let's end this review here. I wish the season didn't end on a note like this for me, but hey, it is what it is. Full credit to the team who made the episode, because you made an episode that looks great, and a lot of other people love it, so that's fantastic. But it wasn't for me. It's not my kind of episode. Well, that was the review. I hope you guys liked it. I was a little less positive than I was hoping, to be honest. I tried to emphasize what I liked, but at the same time, it was only like a few things about it. Like, the episode looks so good, but I just don't like what happens that looks that good. Of course, if you disagree, that's perfectly okay. Yeah, I mean, you can tell me what you thought about the episode down below, as long as you're not one of the people who hates it on principle, because that's lame. And yeah, I don't care who won. Doesn't fucking matter. If you guys like the review, tell me down below. It's been a season. I hope I can get the season ranking out in December, but chances are I'm going to end up getting it out in January. I can say goodbye to any ad revenue it'd make. So yeah, thank you for my patrons scrolling by right now. All legends. Let's see what they want me to say. Let's see what they've given me to say, which you can make me say stuff too if you go visit the patron-only Discord down below.
To be honest, I just want to scrap with you. You know, Cosmic Horrors have been calling you fraud like this lately.
The fuck did this shit come from?
Space Twitter. Oh my god, that man is not a fraud. Why do you laugh in the face of your own destruction? Unicron demands snackies. There weren't enough living beings in my space, Lucky Charms.
You gonna eat that?
Yes, actually, I...
No, you're not!
I am Unicron. I am above all things This is who I am.
Unicron, I do not have time for your BS. I already got gritted on and hit with 90s by Goku and Superman in Fortnite.
Personally, I wouldn't let a poster boy and a low class do me like that. Across everything in the universe, I see Among Us is the least funny. You gonna eat that planet? I'm kinda hungry right now.
Yeah, I mean, it was honestly a lot of Unicron, which I'm okay with. I find doing his voice fun. Yeah, tell me what you think below. I don't know what else to say. Have a good one, everyone. I hope your day is great.